All right, everyone, welcome back in to Goodwill Podcasting. Alongside me, always, is Dan, and we got a very special guest today, Jeremiah.
Hey, what's up? Nice to meet you.
How we doing, boys?
Doing great.
Doing good. It's a bit it's a long weekend, but I'm glad I'm here. Talking movies with you guys. Good time.
Yeah, dude, congrats on taking home silver in the track event.
Yeah. I've been doing track and field for like a little while now. I just started in college. In high school, I played football and I wrestled. I never did track in college. I mean, in high school, but I just started in college. It's been fun so far. Yeah.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
What events do you do, Jeremiah?
Pretty much everything. I'm a multi, so I do the heptathlon and decathlon, which is 7 events indoor and 10 events outdoor. It's like everything from like sprints to jumps to throwing. Yeah, everything.
That's all
pretty
a
much.
lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but it's fun though. It's fun. Keeps you disciplined too. So
Yeah.
All right, well, this week we're tackling the wide world of Harry Potter. I think we're just going to stick to the main 8 films. We're not going to do Fantastic Beasts.
Yep.
I will say before we kick off all that, though, I think every single Harry Potter movie is better than any of the Fantastic Beasts movie.
I agree. I think even though I've only seen the first Fantastic Beasts film, I remember watching it in theaters. I just wasn't a fan. It didn't have that same charm, that same magic that the other 8 films have. I don't know.
But you can feel when something's being made to like. I feel like cash grab is a harsh term, but like that's kind of what it was. They just wanted to keep it rolling and get something new out there. But like when the story isn't as strong, it just doesn't have that same feel. But I mean, I like Eddie Redmayne, but outside of him, it's just they're not very good. Like I don't know, just not the same feel.
I mean, no pun intended, but it's just like kind of hard to capture that same magic that other films like had. Like like just those 3 main characters, Hermione, Harry, and Ron. It was that core group is just something that was so fun to follow and just to see them evolve over time and just grow up and just to see their journey. Like that's just something that you can't capture, especially in that world. I feel like it's just special.
Do you guys read the books?
Mm-hmm.
I did not.
I've read up to 6. I don't think I ever read the last book, but
I read 1 through 4.
Okay. Yeah, they're so solid. When I was younger, I literally used to just read. All I would do basically was read and watch movies and stuff. So I think I read them all the way through twice. Obviously a long time ago, but they're fun reads. And I feel like it just made there be like so much anticipation. Like I remember I feel like there almost isn't like anticipation for movies. I feel like used to be so much more intense, like with like Lord of the Rings and like Harry Potter and just like some other standalones here and there, and even like Marvel as it was coming up. Like I feel like there used to be so much like mutual anticipation, and now like there is, but it's just not. It feels like it's not the same level that it used to be. Which kind of
not at all.
Yeah, it's not.
I mean, you could say it's partly filmmaking, but also I think COVID ruined a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, it just got people out of the mindset and like I mean, not habit, but like going to the movies regularly. I think changed for a lot of people. Also, I mean, everything is just more expensive now. Like, especially for families, like going to the movies is not like it's not cheap at all. And that's not going to get any better soon, probably. So.
Well, yeah, dude, and I think the worst culprit for it is probably DC because I mean, there used to be some hype around it, but we've just got bad movie after bad movie, and now people know you can watch it in 2 months on HBO. Like Blue Beetle is already on HBO.
I still haven't seen that actually.
Neither have I.
I heard like pretty solid things about it, but they're like I know they're like rebooting the whole entire
yeah. So it's like, why are you gonna rush to go see that when you feel like the story doesn't really matter? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Weird.
Yeah, and it's like it feels weird because like they're rebooting it all, but then like there's Shazam 2 that brings back Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman.
Isn't James Gunn like the head of the DC now?
Yeah.
I mean,
which should hopefully help.
Yeah, if it's in his hands, I can see it going in a positive direction with all the stuff he's done with Guardians. I can see it possibly going in a better direction than it has been in the past. I mean, only time will tell, but yeah.
Yeah. I think the difficult thing will be like kind of creating his own feel for DC. Like I think if people just feel like he's just recreating the same tone and everything that he had with Marvel, like I feel like that'll feel kind of cheap. I think
Yeah.
people are gonna want something different, and like he's a talented director, so I'm sure it'll be all right. But if he just brings the same kind of like shticks and stuff, I don't think that's really gonna fly for that long.
Yeah, like we said, time will tell. I am happy that he said he's not really going to do a lot of origin stories because
It's
we've
not
seen it so many times.
Yeah, with Superman and Batman, like especially those two, like we've seen that over and over and over again.
Yeah. I feel like even people who have never seen it know Batman's backstory.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Batman's like one of the most iconic characters, like in all of fiction. Even outside of movies, like comic books, like everything really. So many.
He's
mediums.
probably in the same tier as Darth Vader.
Yeah, for sure. I think Superman as well. I mean, Superman was like one of the first like superheroes known to the public. So like he as well as Batman. Like I mean, I feel like the three biggest superheroes in like ever is like probably Batman, Spider-Man, and Superman. Those are probably the three biggest ones that are universally known to the people in like all of fiction. So yeah,
I might put Hulk in that category too.
Hulk.
I feel like Hulk was bigger back in the day. Like I feel like he had like in my parents' generation and stuff. I feel like Luke with Lou Ferrigno on TV and all. Like there was a lot of good iterations back in the day. But then I feel like I don't know. I feel like the two solo movies kind of like fell flat and kind of like not ruined the character, but like tainted it for like newer generations. And I feel like the great thing about like Superman, Spider-Man, and Batman is like every generation kind of has their own character. Like it's always like changing and evolving. We're always getting something new that's like generally like at least decent quality. Like even Andrew Garfield, like movies aren't great, but he's a great actor and like brought something to the character. So I feel like that's what kind of elevates them is like the generational quality and like something new happening with the character. If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you were talking about Andrew Garfield, like in terms of like my generation Spider-Man, like Andrew Garfield would be my generation Spider-Man because I was like I want to say like maybe 5th grade, 6th grade when that movie came out. But I grew up with like Tobey Maguire as like my favorite Spider-Man. So like there's like multiple iterations of Spider-Man that I personally grew up with. So there's like you were saying, like there's different Spider-Mans, different characters for each different generation that people can connect to. So that's really cool.
Yeah, mine is Toby. Like that was my generation.
I mean, Toby's still personally my favorite Spider-Man.
Me too.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Tom is the best. It's really going to be hard to beat it just because he fits the nerdiness of it and the child part of it. But Toby is my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's hard to look at Toby and not see like a grown dude, but like
Yeah,
you just gotta work around that. But he is good at playing the character. But I'm just like that's like a 30-year-old man. Like that's
Yeah.
well, dude, it was that Spider-Man and then X-Men that kind of skyrocketed comic book movies, though.
Yeah, I actually just wrote a paper like on like the rise of like superhero movies because I'm taking a book to movie adaptation class and we had to write a paper on like failed adaptations and I was talking about the 2003 Daredevil film with Ben Affleck. So I was just like talking about like the rise of superhero films and like why that movie was made and whatever. But yeah, it's super interesting to see like how like in the early 2000s it was like Spider-Man and X-Men and Blade and all those movies like they kind of like and even the Hulk movie like all kind of got their start. I know there was like Batman 1989, like all the other Batman films of the 90s and the
they were like different though, like different feel. Like
it was very different in tone, but like those early 2000s movies were like kind of like set not a blueprint, but like a footing for the superhero genre of the, like for the superhero genre that we see today. I feel like.
yeah, especially with like, I mean, the X-Men movies, especially with like all the characters and like a few different storylines going on, and then carrying that through that trilogy, like it's a pretty solid trilogy. I like those movies a lot. And then I guess in like, it's interesting to think about like all those movies and then we get to like 2008 and you get The Dark Knight, and I feel like that, and Iron Man, but I feel like The Dark Knight was kind of the moment where like studios and everything, they were like, okay, like we need to, this is the future, not the future, but like these movies can be insanely profitable and like be huge cultural moments, and I feel
Yeah.
like that's kind of where it like changed. But all those movies were like way before, and really, like you said, like they kind of started worming in people's mind, like the characters and like how much fun it was, and like definitely set it up.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. All right, we ready to dive into some Harry Potter?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yep.
All right, so Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone or Sorcerer's Stone, depending where you live in the world. This is one of the better origin stories, I think, out of like all of cinema.
Why do you say that?
Just it's a great adaptation, introduces you to the world, but like manages to give you a lot of information, but not all thrown in your face at once. You know?
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's great at world building for sure. Just introducing like Hogwarts and like the whole the lore and the rules of this fantasy world. It all introduces it very well and very directly, but in a playful way. Because like this movie is made for children in a way. Like it was made for younger people, and it does it in a very good way. But also, it's a very accessible film for people of all ages. I feel like it does a really good job of really building that wizardry world.
Yeah. One thing I like about it too is I think with anything, like when you're adapting an existing IP, like I think there's a fine line between like catering to the fans of what exists, like the existing fan base, and then also like being welcoming and like inviting to new fans. And I think throughout the series, it does a good job. Like if you've never read the books, you can go watch these movies. You're not going to be like, what's going on? It's not like treating you like an outsider because you don't have that background knowledge, but it like builds stuff up slowly and effectively. And like there are some like I feel like it does use kind of like little exposition in different ways. A lot of times, like through characters like Hermione, like she'll just start talking about something and like tell you what it is or like how it works. But like it doesn't feel like that weird or out of place because that's like, especially for her character, it's kind of like that's who she is, so it like works.
Yeah, she's the type of, like spell information onto people, so it kind of works for her character.
Exactly, it doesn't feel like unnatural. So I like how it like you don't have to be like a huge super fan to like start this and enjoy the story for what it is. So,
But yeah, and I think the pacing of this movie is fantastic too. Like, I mean, the beginning scene, like where they're dropping Harry off, you know, and Dumbledore takes all the lights, like that doesn't feel like it drags on at all. There's no part of this movie that really does feel like it drags, or that that it's too short. You know?
yeah, the first two are long as hell. Like I forgot.
Yeah.
Like I think it's 2.5 hours, and then the Chamber of Secrets is like 2:45 or 3 hours. I think. Like I could be wrong, but
Yeah, the second one's the longest in the whole series, I think.
yeah, I want to say it's 3. Is it?
Chamber of Secrets is an hour and 161 minutes. So
Yeah,
that 2 hours 40 minutes. Like,
yeah, it's definitely long. And like again, I don't like watching them. I don't feel like it's too long. I feel like they probably could have cut both of the first two down a bit, but like again, watching it, I'm not like, man, this is dragging out because you are like invested in the story and the characters, and like you are kind of learning a lot about the world, like we talked about. So I like that they're longer, and there's a lot to set up, so you don't want to like shortchange that.
well, yeah, and that goes right into what we're saying too about pacing. Is it doesn't feel 2.5 hours. Like
Yeah.
I had watched it already by the time you had texted me. It was like, did you realize it was 2.5 hours? And I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Do you guys have any like favorite moments in the first one? I think there's a lot of good, like strong, fun moments, but anything stand out?
I think one of my personal favorites is the Sorting Hat bit where he's like, not Slytherin, not Slytherin. Like that part always stands out of my mind. Also the part where he's like learning to fly, playing Quidditch. It's also really fun. There's like a lot of like fun, playful things like that really stand out in my mind when I think about the first film.
First one for me, probably one of my favorite scenes. I got two. One is the wand scene where he's, figuring out, which I think it's a great introduction too, to like kind of show that even though everyone kind of has magic in this world, it is very individual still. And then two, the chess scene at the very end.
Yeah, it's strong. Yeah, I've played chess like since I was like a little kid. I played like competitively a little bit,
Nerd.
and yeah, well, that's fine. So like yeah, that scene always like was so cool to me. I think with the first movie, it's like it's very a lot of it's very like playful and like magical and like fun, but then like tone wise, there are some like you see that like seriousness, and there are some moments that are like for a kid probably kind of scary. Like I remember one that stands out to me is like when they get that detention and they go in the Forbidden Forest, which like that was dumb as hell. But that's just how they get detention. They literally could have died. But and then like Voldemort or Quirrell's there, whatever, like drinking the unicorn blood. Like that's like a pretty like intense scene, especially for kids. And I think the tone kind of like flips back and forth between like haha, like funny, goofy, and then like stuff like that. So it doesn't feel like I'm not saying it as a negative, but it's like interesting to see because you get kind of shades of like what's coming later on.
Do you feel like the tone is balanced well?
I think in the first 2 or 3, it like teeters on not being balanced that well. Just because like sometimes it's almost jarring, and a lot of times there's literally like back to back moments of like they're like laughing and giggling about something, and then like something serious is happening. It's just like, but again, like a lot of times I think if you're watching this like and you're a kid, you're not really going to care about that. But I think like watching it now, it's a little like, huh. And also, I think in the first 2 movies, there's some like really weird editing. Like it just kind of cuts almost randomly a lot. And I feel like that gets better as it goes. But I was also reading something about how they had to do a lot of weird stuff with editing because when the 3 of them were together, they like could not keep a straight face. Like they couldn't keep it together. So they couldn't even shoot a lot of scenes with like all 3 of them there. So there's a lot of like one person talking at a time or like weird editing and cutting to like work around that. But like that was a big problem when they were young, which is like understandable. I mean, they're so small in the first one. Like
It's crazy to see like how young they were and how they just grew over those films and how they just like became like you literally see them go from kids to being adults. It's really cool to see them grow like that.
yeah, that's kind of rare that you get to see that over like a series. Like I mean, you literally watch like you're watching the character grow up, but the actor too, and that they obviously all get so much better. Like there's some rough acting in the first couple, but like again, what do you expect? But yeah, it's cool to see, and they're all. I mean, I would say more so Radcliffe and Watson, but they're all like good actors now. They've all done so much interesting stuff, so it's cool to see them grow up.
Yeah, I also really like the scene at the end too, kind of switching back to that. And also along with the tone that you're talking about is when he is, there and Voldemort kind of reveals himself on the back of Quirrell's head. Like we don't totally understand why Harry can kind of burn him and like that's kind of how he makes him disappear at the end. Or I guess kill him. But that's one of my favorite things about the Harry Potter franchise. If you do watch it in order, they go back and explain that. And I think it's number 4 as to why. Because, before Voldemort did come back, he couldn't touch Harry without something like that happening. And so I think the continuity of these films makes it fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they set up Voldemort really well in like little ways, and even like we were talking about the wand scene. He's talking about like Ollivander is talking about how like there's another like twin wand, and basically it was Voldemort, and like that, even that kind of stuff, like is just cool and kind of like builds up this mystique around his character until he becomes like what he is at the end. So he's a great villain.
Yeah, but for all the Harry Potter fans that say that Voldemort is on the same level as Darth Vader, you're wrong.
Yeah, that's a whole debate in and of itself.
Voldemort couldn't even take over a high school. Vader ran the galaxy.
Tried a lot
Good
of
point.
times.
That's very good.
Oh. But yeah, so I think overall I gave this movie an where's it at? I gave this one an 8.0 out of 10.
I think that's fair. I feel like I would have it at like maybe like 3.5, 4 stars out of 5. Like it's good. But like the CGI is like Disney Channel level. I feel like that's pretty distracting. And obviously that gets a lot better. But between that and just like some of the editing and acting and stuff, like it's not amazing, but it's still like it's so fun and everything builds off it. So I do like it a lot.
Yeah, I have mine at 4 or 5 stars. Like I said before, like I just love like those like little moments of like playfulness and just seeing them as like because personally like, I love like coming of age films and this is like a pretty this is a coming of age story. Like you're seeing them like go to school for the first time and become friends for the first time, and you're just seeing them go through these things that will ultimately set them to be set them up to be the wizards that they will become when they're older. And there's so many things that I love about this movie. Like the John Williams score is so iconic. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Yeah, there's a lot of great things to love about this first film.
Yeah, without the music, like this whole series is like at a lower level. Like it's
Yeah.
they nailed it. Obviously Williams always does, but it just makes it that much better.
All right, who do you guys like better, John Williams or Hans Zimmer?
Hans Zimmer for me all day, personally.
I think I would go Zimmer as well, because I think he's just been involved in stronger movies and in movies that like subject
Stronger
matter wise.
movies?
If you laid it all out, like this is something I think I would like to lay out and look at on paper, but my gut tells me yes. But you could be right.
I mean, like Star Wars, Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, Harry Potter. That's a pretty strong resume.
I mean,
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer has Interstellar, Inception, Dune.
Interstellar's mid.
Really?
Midterstellar.
Wow. Wait, so talking about the score or the film as a whole?
The film as a whole.
Okay, I mean,
The music though is brilliant. Like
No, I'm not discrediting Hans Zimmer at all. I have him in my 2 spot.
yeah, he's great. I mean, personally, I feel like he has a wider range of work. His work is more varied. I feel like he works in like a lot more different projects than John Williams does. I mean, John Williams, you can make an argument that he has like more iconic works. But in terms of quality, I just feel like Hans Zimmer has a higher quality of work. I don't know.
No, I can see Zimmer taking over like John Williams by the end of his career.
it's also like very like they each have kind of their own like lane that they're in. Like John Williams, I think of like light, fun,
Yeah,
like
it's like very
energy.
orchestral, very like it's like grand and like I don't know, like optimistic. Is that the word to like? It's like very
Yeah,
grand. But
I forgot. John Williams did Schindler's List, which
yeah,
is an outlier, and he did Saving Private Ryan.
okay.
But then when you look at stuff like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Harry Potter, E.T., Indiana Jones, like there's a lot of that more like lightness.
Home Alone, Home Alone 2, yeah, Home Alone as well.
yeah, and also like Hook, another very kind of lighthearted film.
Yeah. And then with Zimmer, like Dunkirk, Blade Runner 2049, Gladiator.
I forgot he did Gladiator.
Yeah, Dark Knight, Inception, Thin Red Line.
A lot of work with Nolan.
What'd you say, Jeremiah?
A lot of work with Nolan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I think, when you look at it like that, you can really respect and appreciate both of them. I think it's like very tough to compare.
Yeah.
They're both great. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, Zimmer and Nolan are the Williams and Spielberg.
Yeah,
Era.
yeah, and it's funny because they're like those are the directors they worked with the most. So,
All right, well, let's move on to Number 2, I'm blanking on the name, Chamber of Secrets.
What are your feelings, Connor?
I actually think I like this one better than the first one.
Why?
I think because we didn't have to get the origin story, like the first one. So this one kind of jumped into things a little quicker. And then like the fast-paced beginning, like they have to, find a different way to get to Hogwarts, and it's through the flying car, everything else we see. And this one kind of introduces us, like we could assume, no magic outside of school, but this one kind of like shows the severity of using magic outside of school.
Yeah.
So I like all of that. Fun fact though, this is I think my first memory of seeing a movie in theaters, and I had to leave early. My dad had to walk me out because I was scared of the spider scene.
I don't mess with spiders either, so like I feel that. Yeah, this movie is fun. I feel like like we talked about, it's so long. Like I don't think that's really necessary. But it is fun, and like you get to meet Dobby. And I feel like it really dives into like Hogwarts itself, and like kind of like shows you some more of the history and like the school itself, and all of kind of like the like mysticism around the school. So like I like that aspect, but it's too long.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like it's really good at like introducing like characters that you see down the line, like Dobby and I'm blanking on the
Moaning Myrtle.
yeah, like a lot of people.
And Ginny too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's just so long, kind of unnecessarily long, and yeah, it has like a lot of those same like playful aspects, like in tones, like the first film. But I just feel like because the first film is kind of does the same exact, well, not the same exact thing, but has that same playful tone, but does it in a shorter way. I feel like I like the first film more than the second one, but I still do like the second film. Well, not the second film, but the second book was actually. Like, this is weird. It was the first Harry Potter book I read was Chamber of Secrets, because my school library didn't have the first book. So for some reason, I was in like the first grade. I decided to read the second book. It made no sense. And then I went back and read the first one. Then I read the second one. Then I kept reading the other ones. But yeah, weird fact.
Yeah, with you guys talking about like, how long it is, I think like one part that can be cut out of like all of it is the photographer that like follows Harry around the whole time.
Alan Creevy or whatever.
Yeah. Like I'm not saying I dislike the character, I'm just saying I kind of felt unneeded, and it was just like a side character they threw in that could be petrified when he saw the snake.
Yeah, he's only there really to get like messed up by the snake, honestly. Like, so you don't really need to set him up that much. I mean, I guess you want to have like some kind of connection to the character to make that effective, but like, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but I mean, with the people they introduced in the first one, you could have just made the people petrified, like Hermione keep, obviously, because that makes it a little more serious. But you could, like, if you want a side character, you could throw in, like, Crabbe or Goyle. Like, we know them, and then it would be like, oh, Malfoy lost one of his, boys. One of his henchmen.
Yeah, that's fair. I hope the basilisk is cool. Like, I think it's a cool, like, aspect to the story. And I remember, like, I don't remember a lot of stuff from being a kid in general, but I remember reading the book, and like it was a scary like concept, and kind of the like mystery behind not really knowing what was going on, and like all the stuff Harry was hearing. Like I think I remember that just feeling really cool. So I like how they brought that to the movie, and it's an interesting, kind of scary aspect of the story.
Yeah, the basilisk makes this like kind of set up the rest of the movies too by showing like it's going to go down a darker path. Like his Quirrell like was still goofy. He didn't really like give that vibe in the first one, but the basilisk and like showing Tom Riddle and showing that Ginny might die, like that really sets the tone for the next 6 movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say this thing like as you go through the movies, like each movie, especially like from 3 and up, but in 2 it kind of introduces like little sprinkles of more mature tones that will set up the tone for the future films. Because in 3 it's like a complete departure from the playfulness of the first 2 films. And in 3 you get a way darker tone. You get a way darker color palette and color scheme, and that's like something that follows throughout from 3 all the way to Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Yeah, it's funny, Jeremiah. I was thinking about that. Like, as I was watching them again, I was kind of trying to think about like, what is the moment where like the tone just shifts and it changes, and like I feel like you can kind of point out like different moments here and there, but also what you said, like the third movie looks completely different. Like the way it was shot, the colors, like I feel like the first two, like when you see moments from the first two or everything else, like you know kind of where you're at in story based on how it looks. That's definitely a good call. One other thing quickly, I really like Kenneth Branagh in this. I think he's a lot of fun. Like it's a fun character, and I like him a lot. And I just love how like full of shit he is, and he's just like a ridiculous character.
I was just gonna bring that up because he's kind of like this universe's Jar Jar Binks, where like people either love him or hate him for how dumb he is.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, as I feel like there's so many like his character feels very real. There's so many like full of shit people. I like that character. I think he's funny, and I feel like people like that would exist in this world specifically.
Yeah, I enjoyed his character a lot.
I love the part where they're having like the battle on the tables. It's him and I believe it's Snape.
Yeah.
That's a really fun scene, especially like also with Harry and Draco. They also have a little scuffle in the same location. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I also think they did the scenes very well too, where Harry's talking to snakes, where he can speak basilisk.
Yeah. You mentioned Draco, Jeremiah. I feel like he's honestly, in terms of acting, I think he's probably the best child actor in the first two. Like he's doing a decent job. And I just feel like he kind of stands out from the rest of them. Like, no offense to the rest of them, but like he's pretty good, I feel.
Yeah, which is surprising too that he didn't like get a lot of roles after the Harry Potter franchise ended. It feels like.
I feel like that's the case for like a lot of people, because I feel like they were like just so like looked at and like formed into this Harry Potter like type that no one really gave him like a real chance to expand out of that type of role. I know I mean Daniel Radcliffe, he's had some success out of the Harry Potter stuff. You know, he was in Swiss Army Man. What else was he in?
He was in that horror movie.
It's like the Woman in Black. Is that what
Yeah, I think that's it.
He was in Imperium 2, I think it's called, where he played like he has to go undercover. He's in the FBI, I think, and he has to like go undercover as like a white nationalist and like try to figure out this like attack that's going to happen. It's like pretty intense. It's like not the best, but it's a really good performance by him. I think it's worth watching. He's like also good actor.
He's the antagonist in Now You See Me Too.
I haven't seen those films. The Now You See Me films. I haven't seen them.
I really enjoy them. Number 2 is not a great film by any means, but it's like one of those that I still love.
The first one's fun. The first one's worth watching. It's not like the best, but if you ever wanted something like fun to throw on, it's worth watching.
Yeah, it's not a groundbreaking like magic film.
Yeah.
If you want a great magic film, watch The Prestige.
I love that. That's my favorite Christopher Nolan film, personally.
Over Oppenheimer.
Yeah, over Oppenheimer, over The Dark Knight, over really anything. I love The Prestige. I really do.
It was Dan's and my number 2. We have Oppenheimer 1.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer definitely close. I definitely want to watch Oppenheimer again. I've only seen it the one time. I didn't see it in 70mm IMAX like how I wanted to, but I definitely still like the way that I saw like the way that it made me feel. Probably it's definitely cemented as my number 2 for sure, even over The Dark Knight. So probably have The Prestige, Oppenheimer, then The Dark Knight at 3 for me personally.
The Prestige is just so much more fun. I also think, Connor, maybe for us, at least for me, I feel like it was a little bit of recency bias, like having seen Oppenheimer, and like it was just such an like experience, and there was so much hype around it. Like I feel like that definitely impacts my ranking right now. but The Prestige is just like so much fun, and like it's just I don't know. There's something unique about it.
I get that, but for me, I hadn't seen a lot of Nolan's filmography till like recently, so I watched The Prestige for the first time 2 weeks before I saw Oppenheimer.
Okay.
So for me, it's probably a little bit of recency bias, but I've also seen Oppenheimer twice in theaters. So
Yeah.
all right, well, let's shift on to what's probably the darkest of the Harry Potters, and that is The Prisoner of Azkaban. So
You think it's the darkest?
I think it's up there. It's probably that, or Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Yeah, I feel like it's tough. I feel like from this point on, they all kind of have their moments that are like really somber and like emotionally impactful. But yeah, I feel like I probably think it gets darker towards the end, but I don't know. There's definitely like a more ominous feeling throughout like the whole movie.
I just think this one with like the Death Eaters in the beginning, the Quidditch scene, seeing Lupin turn and like go after the main characters and Sirius, all of it. I think it just like this one sticks out the most to me.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
I agree. I feel like it has a lot to do. I mean, I believe the first two films were both directed by Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
been checking on that because I was going to say this is the first one where the director changes.
yeah. Alfonso Cuarón. He directed this film, and it was like a complete departure. Like I said before, a complete departure in tone from the past two films. I just love what Cuarón brought to the series at this point. He completely shifted it, and I feel like it's cool because the tone shifted as they were growing up and as they were maturing. So it kind of makes sense why it got darker because they were maturing and they were like going into a different phase of life. So it kind of makes sense why the tone was shifting in the way that it did, in my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something I was going to say on this. Now I forget.
I feel like Jeremiah, what you just said, like also as you get older, like you come to just understand everything in the world better and stuff gets more real and it's less like when you're young, it's kind of like, that's not really my problem. It's like this stuff is happening, but it's kind of like almost in a different world for you. But as you get older, you're like, okay, no, like I'm part of this. Like this affects me, and like you kind of see the characters come into that like frame of mind, like in this movie and moving forward.
Dude, and this is probably something I shouldn't admit, being, having a podcast and everything and being a content creator, but I just rewatched all of these last week, and it was up until last week that I had realized that Gary Oldman played Sirius Black.
Well, he blends into the character really well. Like, I don't know if that sounds weird to say, but like I feel like he doesn't like you're not looking at it like, oh, I'm watching Gary Oldman. Like he really, I feel like, was a perfect fit, and it's a different look. Like it's a different character, and he does an amazing job. But I kind of get that. Like I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and
No,
that's kind of Gary Oldman's thing too. Is he like always just kind of blends in, like he morphs into a character.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's like one of the best character actors we have like working today. Honestly.
Yeah, like him and Depp always like kind of change their look severely to where like you won't really recognize them in a lot of films. Obviously, Depp, you can see him in everything, but
Yeah. Yeah, I really like Gary Oldman, and like Sirius is such. I think one of the better characters the series has to offer. So I'm glad they got an actor like that to take that role. Kind of a random question: is there anything casting wise that either of you would have changed? Is there anyone, literally 1 through 7, that you felt like, this isn't quite how I feel it was supposed to be, or just you felt like wasn't that strong?
It's a good
I'll let
question.
you take the lead on this because it sounds like you have one in mind.
To be totally honest, I don't think I do, which is kind of why I wanted to ask, because it's like, I feel like casting is like when you're doing a series like this, like it's one of the things you have to nail. I feel like, I mean, I feel like the character, like no shade to the actor, but like the character of Ginny herself, like she doesn't get much to do, and like I kind of wish she was written differently, or like just was able to be more of a presence. And I honestly feel like in the books she like had more of a personality and like a little more like energy. I don't know how to describe it, but that's the one person that I'm kind of like, I don't feel like she gives a whole lot throughout it, but I don't know. I don't. She's not the worst for sure.
Yeah, pulling out of the books, I agree with you too. Also, like I'm happy with every casting in this. I mean, Robbie Coltrane was fantastic. Like you couldn't find a better Hagrid. But one thing I'm pulling out of the books is I wish we could have maybe seen more of Percy Weasley.
Yeah, is he older than Bill?
Bill?
Yeah, like Percy. Is he one of the brothers?
Yeah, he's the oldest brother. I forget what country he lands in from the books, but he eventually goes on to work with dragons, which is kind of how they got, or which they have like a throwaway line in number 4. He's kind of the one who transported the dragons for the Triwizard Tournament.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think you mean Bill. Bill's the oldest,
Oh,
and
is it?
then yeah, it's Bill, then Charlie, then Percy is the third. But
Oh,
yeah,
geez.
I don't even remember hearing him mentioned. I don't even remember him from the books at all. That's crazy. That you,
Percy is in it, like he's in the first one. He's the first to go through platform 9 3/4.
okay.
You can like see him in the side in number 2. I don't think he's in this one at all. He's mentioned in 4. Number 5, or no, I don't think he's in 5. Number 6 is his wedding.
That's Bill and Fleur's wedding.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah.
man, I'm way off. All right.
Yeah, it says he works for the Ministry of Magic and then like has a falling out with the family and then eventually reconciles. But I guess that's why he wasn't in a lot of the story. But yeah, Bill marries Fleur, and he's the guy with like the scars from like the
Yeah.
And then Charlie is the second, and he's the one that's in Romania with like dragons and stuff.
Oh, okay. Charlie's the one I'm thinking of then.
Yeah. It makes you like, I don't know why they wrote all those characters if they weren't really going to use them. But I mean, it's a fun family.
The mom is one of the best characters, like just funny wise. Like whenever she's on screen, it's very impactful.
Yeah. Yeah, both of the parents I think are really really good. One other thing I wanted to ask you guys about from the first two is, this might sound weird, but like as I was watching it, I kind of don't like. I don't feel like the Dursleys are like that awful, and I feel like I remember them being like worse. At the end of the day, like they're taking care of him, and like I feel like he's a little dramatic. Like it could be worse. People are in much worse situations. Like they're kind of mean, but like I don't know. I think it's a little. I feel like in the books even it was a little worse for Harry, or seemed worse.
I actually kind of agree with you. Like growing up, I remember I was like, they're awful, and on rewatch, I was like, like, you know,
They kind of suck. Like they all suck individually, but
yeah. Like arguably the worst one is I think it's what's his name, the like uncle
Vernon.
Vernon, like his sister, like she might be the worst. Like, and you know, Harry just inflates her and sends her away.
Yeah. Also, I watched that and I was like, did Harry just think he like killed her? Because like, like he doesn't even care at all. She's just gone. Like in his eyes, he's just like, she deserved that. She's gone. Like I don't know.
No mercy.
But this is kind of back to my darker tones thing too. Is I like this might be my favorite beginning of all of them, just because like you know we start with that, but then it moves right into Harry waiting for a bus, and you see like the dark tone come out immediately with what we just see as a scary black dog, which we learn is Sirius, coming out of the bushes. And then you go into the whole fun bus scene where it's like, you know, flying through city traffic, squeezing between two regular London buses. Like, I think that whole scene is so fun.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good opening. It kind of gives you like a little bit of everything. But you definitely feel like that ominous kind of feeling about the story. And like, I like that scene where he actually ends up blowing her up and like kind of defense like standing up for himself. Like you kind of see a little bit of his like anger and everything come out. I feel like it's pretty decent acting and kind of a moment for him to like actually act after the first two movies is kind of being like meh. So I like that scene too.
I think this is also the movie where you see like the biggest jump, where like you see the difference in the characters like age. Like in the first two, they look like preteens, like very young. In this one, they actually look like they've grown up,
Yeah.
you know, and everything. And then they kind of keep that look throughout.
What year did the Chamber? What year did Chamber of Secrets come out?
2002, 2002.
Yeah,
Chamber of Azkaban came out what year?
04.
04.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
So it makes sense too. It's kind of wild, just like you watched all three of these kids grow up, and like we've seen the biggest stages of their life.
They made these movies quick. Like it was 2001, 2002, 2004, 2005. Like they were working hard. Like that's a lot in a short period of time.
An 8-movie franchise in 10 years, because I think Deathly Hallows Part 2 came out in 11, is impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's because like the demand of these movies was probably like very high because the popularity of the books. I mean, I wasn't really like too aware of like how popular the books were growing up, but like I know like looking back on like footage and stuff like that, I know like people like lined outside of stores to like for the release of the books. There was a lot of like hype and fandom around the books, so I'm sure there was a like very popular demand to get the movies out consistently for like from like a business standpoint, I'm sure.
Yeah, one of my big memories was it's not there anymore, but there's a pretty big bookstore by my house growing up. And I think it was during the time my mom had cancer. And like she wasn't supposed to be around germs like at all. So like I've said in a previous episode before, Jeremiah, like that's I think where my love of movies comes from is one of the germ-free places we could go was to see movies. So that was our like thing.
Yeah.
But she risked it on this one to go wait for the midnight release of The Order of the Phoenix.
Wow.
Dedication.
I think she like had cancer at that point. She lived too, so like it's all good. I make plenty of jokes about it now.
Hey, as long as you can joke about it after, it's all good.
My mom might have a darker sense of humor than I do.
A lot of times going through stuff like that, like you get a pretty good sense of humor, and like I think that's important to go to like take whatever life throws at you and like kind of keep your spirit. So that's good.
But yeah, also this movie has my favorite Quidditch scene out of any of the movies.
It's good.
In the rain, Harry chases the snitch up into the clouds, meets like was it like 3 Dementors?
Yeah, something like that. 3 or 4.
Yeah, I didn't really like. They're just actively trying to kill him. Like I didn't really understand. Like they just suck. Like no pun intended. Like I wasn't quite sure like why they were allowed to be there and like why they're just trying to kill him. Like were they in line with Voldemort or like?
I don't know, because like you know you can theorize about everything, but like going forward, as you see in number 5, where like Umbridge is in, or no, number 6. Umbridge is like kind of the head where like she's in the courtroom and everything. There's Dementors up top. Like maybe it was Umbridge in the background before we knew her.
Yeah, and then I think like Voldemort has all the Dementors with him when they attack. Like the Dementors all go to be with him when they like attack Hogwarts. So I feel like they were always just kind of like, I don't know, shady. But
yeah, it's probably more Voldemort than Umbridge. But you know, I just hate her. She's worse than Voldemort.
Yeah,
she's one of the worst villains. I mean, like she's one of the best villains, but one of like the worst characters to yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah.
Look, I've never wanted to hit a woman, but
yeah, she's pretty terrible. Pretty terrible character.
Yeah.
She makes all their lives living hell. Pretty much.
Yeah. And, like, instead of getting the spinoff for Fantastic Beasts, what we should have got the spinoff of was the Marauders. Because we're introduced to the Marauders map in this one, and I think, like, that's a story from like my perspective anyway, and the Harry Potter fans I've talked to. Like that's the story everyone wants to see.
It's like young James and Lupin and Sirius and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if you got some good actors on board, like people would love that. And I think you could even take that all the way up to like his Harry's parents' death, and like I feel like people would be all about it.
oh,
But
absolutely. And Lupin is probably my favorite character in all of Harry Potter.
why?
I don't know if I have a great answer. I just love the acting and like, um, like seeing him deal with all of this, but then like he's still there. He might be the smartest wizard, like that we see outside of maybe Dumbledore.
Yeah,
I don't really have a great answer, but he's just been my favorite for a very long time.
yeah, he's one of my favorites. I think he has a great like energy about him. And it's cool. Like he has kind of that dark aspect of his character that he has to kind of keep in check and grapple with. So I think that always makes any character more interesting. Like, I mean, that's why like we we're talking about Batman. Like that's what makes Batman so great. Is like he's not perfect. He's like has all this stuff going on inside of him, but like he's still able to deal with that and be who he is, which is like more real than like a character like Superman who's just kind of like always perfect. Not to get off track, but like I like that about Lupin as well.
You and me get off track? Could never happen.
But yeah, it's a solid movie. It kind of sucks he only got to direct one movie. So
Yeah.
it's kind of weird shifting because it's like the first two are Columbus, then changes for 3, changes for 4, and then consistent onward. But like, I think it makes 3 and 4 feel like more unique.
Mhm. Was the rest of the series all directed by David Yates?
No.
Mike Newell was Goblet of Fire.
Okay.
They went solo for 3, solo for 4, and then 5 through 8 was Yates.
Okay.
Or yeah.
You guys have anything else on Prisoner of Azkaban?
No.
Oh.
I was gonna say like I feel like the whole time travel thing is like a little gimmicky, but like it. I mean, obviously it's how it was written, so it's fun, but it's a little like convenient.
I do kind of like it though, like adding in the time travel aspect just because like it wasn't as similar as every other time travel movie we've seen. Like this might be the closest they push to getting like near their in time characters outside of Back to the Future where Marty's, standing right above his old self.
Yeah, and I feel like when you introduce time travel in any story, it brings up a lot of questions about like, okay, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Like, I don't know, but it is fun and it works for the story and like gives you a satisfying ending. So
But yeah, and I kind of like the aspect too where they're like in Hagrid's house. You see Harry get hit with the rock or like the pot smashed, everything. But then like when we're actually with Harry and Hermione in the time travel part, like both of them are questioning, like as if they don't remember that happened. Like,
yeah, but solid movie all around.
all right, moving on to my personal favorite, Goblet of Fire.
I love the Goblet of Fire personally too. I feel like it has my favorite opening of any of the Harry Potter films. Personally,
Yeah,
like it's super dark, gets you right into it. I really love it a lot, honestly.
and you kind of see like how big the world of Quidditch actually is.
Yeah, and I think that's why I love it so much because I've always been a big fan of Quidditch in the universe of Harry Potter, and just seeing it on like that big of a stage, is really cool to see. Like just to see like how like universal it is and how like big it is to the people in the universe is really cool.
Yeah, I feel like it really takes like the feeling of like soccer in Europe and just brings that to like a fresh point. Like it's a cool sport. Like for the world, I feel like it fits. It doesn't feel like corny or like stupid, and like they put a lot of work into making it look good, especially in like the later movies. So I love that aspect of it as well.
The one part always that threw me off from the beginning, though, and it's not like discrediting this movie at all, but like I thought that was like a professional event. So it threw me off that Victor Crumb is still a high school student that's able to compete. In the Triwizard.
I mean, he's like Kobe coming out of high school. I mean, if you're good, you're good. Like,
well, yeah, but then Kobe didn't go back in the winter and go play, his high school ball.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
No, that was the only part that ever threw me off. But obviously, fictional world. I don't know how it works.
Yeah. Plus, I think it's like they're like national teams, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like think about it that way. It's like you could have like.
So it's like Mbappe.
Yeah, it's like going to the Olympics or something like that.
Yeah, makes sense.
What about this makes it your favorite all around, Connor?
I like the Triwizard Tournament a lot, so I like all the dragon scenes. The underwater scene is probably, I don't know why, but it seems like it's the least challenging of all the Triwizard games. Would you guys agree?
I don't know.
Because I'm sorry.
No,
you're good.
Wait, so can we go through what all of them were again? So it's the
So
first
it's the dragon.
dragons, and then the second one is the
Yeah, underwater, saving your friends, and then the third is the maze.
Yeah. So I do think the underwater is probably the easiest. And probably like the least climactic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I feel like I differ from you guys there. I feel like it's more interesting than the dragon part because I like the kind of mystery aspect of like all of them like figuring out how to breathe underwater. I thought that was cool how they all have like a different strategy and kind of have to like look into it, and then also like figuring out how to open the egg and stuff and like hear that message. I feel like it's kind of like
well, the egg came from the dragon.
Sure, but still, just like the mysteriousness of it, I kind of like, and I feel like that's another sequence that like in the books was kind of like really creepy and cool. So I like the underwater part.
There's not one that I dislike. I enjoy all the scenes, which is, again, back to your question as to why it's maybe my favorite, is because I enjoy every scene of the Triwizard Tournament. I kind of like that this is the first time we see the friend group feud, like Harry and Ron are getting along. And I think this is where we see like the CGI really take a jump.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie just looks like there's a lot more money like poured into it. And like, yeah, it looks a lot better, which was necessary because like there's a lot going on like visually. I also think it's cool seeing the other two like schools come in and kind of getting like that different, like the sense of like, okay, it's not just Hogwarts, this is a world. Like other countries have their wizards and like they're kind of different like style wise and like with their magic and stuff. So I thought that was cool too.
Yeah, that was always the coolest part for me to see like wizards from like other schools and like in other areas of the world. Like it just builds the world because when you see Hogwarts and where you see where they are geographically, like you think the wizarding world is so small, but then in this fourth film you see the world expand, so it just makes you it expands your perspective on the whole wizardry world. So it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like it also, along with introducing you to that, introduces you to the dark side of magic better than the previous films by showing you, of like the death curse, the torture curse.
Yeah. I feel like I think I would have liked to see more of that, Jeremiah, like with seeing wizards from like all over the world and like other areas and just like I think I could have used a little more of that throughout. I think that would have been fun, but obviously doesn't make or break it. But I like that aspect a lot. I think it's fun. But yeah, also kind of like you said, like obviously we get to see like Voldemort in the flesh, and seeing Cedric Diggory die and all, like it definitely like really grounds the whole series, and I feel like that's the moment where like 100% going forward like it's going to be different, in terms of like the feel.
Yeah, and then I feel like Lucius Malfoy. Like we've always got like a bad sense from him, but this one, like you really get it confirmed too, seeing that he's a Death Eater, that he's kind of always around. The bad parts.
Yeah.
And then Mad Eye Moody. Well, not Mad Eye Moody, Barty Crouch Jr., but Mad Eye Moody.
Yeah. I think Lucius, that was, Jason Isaacs. Like, I think that was one of the best castings in the entire series. Like, I just feel like he portrayed that character so well. And, like, I think that's one of my favorite castings all around.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then Ralph Fiennes might be one of my favorite castings, too. He is one of the most underrated actors working right now.
Is there anyone else you guys would have liked to have seen play Voldemort?
Maybe
I feel like there's a lot of directions you can take it, but
I think I would like to see Mads Mikkelsen. Maybe Mads Mikkelsen. I can see that.
Yeah, that would have been cool. I think he has kind of like the like quiet, calm, like coolness, but also like the ability to go like unhinged, and kind of like let that like rage out. I feel like Willem Dafoe would have been kind of interesting. Like I don't know if it would have been the best, but like I would like to see that take. I love him, but yeah, I mean
Javier Bardem is the one that popped into my head.
Yeah,
see that.
I feel like it sucks. Like I feel like he's gotten some roles that weren't that great, and I feel like because he was such a good villain, like for example for Bond or in No Country for Old Men, like I feel like a lot of people like threw money at him to just like be a villain, and like even like Pirates of the Caribbean, I'm just like, man, this is a wasting like a good actor. Like,
Yeah,
it just kind of sucks, but he's still really talented.
It's kind of his role for No Country that made me like think of him, just because the monotone, like very serious, always an intense scene when he's on screen.
Yeah,
But I don't think I would change it from Ralph Fiennes.
yeah. Anything you guys don't like about this one?
I feel like bits of it can be rushed. Like, specifically the scene where Voldemort does come back. Like, he's, this scrawny little thing, like, can't do anything on his own. And then he gets, like, Harry's blood, his own hand, and then he just gets thrown into a pot with a little spell, and he's, like, pretty much comes right out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they could have done more, like let him maybe like brew in that pot for a minute, if you want to refer to it that way. And then like kind of have something, or like maybe the Death Eaters arrive then and they like all see Harry and they like have some dialogue there, or like, they're like trying to like hold people off till Voldemort actually gets out, something like that.
A little more like tension build up.
Yeah.
I also like in this movie, like it's cool seeing Robert Pattinson. This is like three years before Twilight.
Yeah.
And it's cool getting to see him like act a little bit before getting kind of like thrown into all that. But I think he's good here as Diggory.
Absolutely. Maybe one thing. What's the girl's name? LaFleur.
Fleur Delacour.
Yeah, Fleur Delacour. I would have maybe liked to see more with her, or maybe have her have a few more lines.
Yeah, she just feels like kind of like thrown in.
She's like a side main character.
Yeah, I feel like her and like Crumb or whatever at least got a little more to do in the books, and like this one feels a lot more focused on Hogwarts still, even though that aspect is there. So that would have been cool to see.
Jeremiah, you got anything on that?
I do like I've like when I watched the movie, like when I was younger, I've always liked the aesthetic look of the school that Victor Crumb comes from. I'm forgetting the name of the exact.
Thing.
Yeah, I would have loved to see like more from the perspective of their schools and then like their type of aesthetic and wizardry. I would have loved to see more stuff from them. That's always something I want to see more out of this film.
Even like a 5 minute sequence on like each of the schools, like even with some exposition or whatever, like just to show like them kind of in their day to day, that would be like really cool to see.
Yeah, or even maybe like to see them like actually in their schools like before they came to Hogwarts, just to see like where they're coming and like how how they got there. It would have been cool like instead of just seeing them like plop into Hogwarts out of nowhere. Well, not out of nowhere, but like just plop like randomly in the movie. It would have been nice to see like where they actually came from and how they got there a little bit. Like maybe like not something extensive, but just something at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe like take away some of the scenes with like Hagrid's girlfriend, because like I feel like that didn't add a lot to the story, and do exactly what Jeremiah was just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
Also, back to like how the CGI stepped up its game. I think one of the cooler scenes that like still looks very good to this day is when they're like right before the first trial, when they pull their dragon out of that little bag. Like that still looks very good.
Yeah, I like that part. Yeah, but I think they definitely like they stepped it up in a lot of ways here, and then into Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah, this movie feels like the closest to a Christmas movie out of the 8, though. Because of the whole winter ball and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the like angsty kind of teenage stuff, I feel like they could have dialed back and like put more into like some other things, but
yeah, like the scene where Hermione's yelling at Ron after the ball.
Yeah, I mean it's whatever. I like. How do you guys feel about that relationship in general? Like, does that feel like how did it feel in the movies? Like, do you think it was well done? Did it feel believable? Like, what do you think?
I feel like at times it can feel believable. Sometimes it doesn't. Like it tapers on and off from feeling believable and not believable. Specifically in the fourth film, I feel like it works for the most part because like you kind of see like them like being at odds, but it's kind of because they like have such strong feelings for each other, even though they may not like fully realize it yet. Like those feelings are starting to develop with each other. And you're starting to see like them like kind of indirectly express their feelings for each other. So it is kind of cool, and I think it does work in this one, but it does taper on and off. Like I feel like in the fifth film it kind of tapers off a little bit, but it works more in the fourth film for me in terms of Hermione and Ron.
What about you, Connor?
I'm more comment on like number 6. Like it kind of feels rushed. Like
no, I meant 6 instead of 5. That's what I meant. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. No, you're good. It gets a little confusing.
Yeah.
But like number 6, like it's like, you know, Ron's kind of dating this girl, and like previous to that, like we saw like kind of Ron and Hermione's chemistry building a little, but then all of a sudden it's like number 6, like Hermione's just jealous and crying over him on the stairs.
Yeah. I feel like they kind of try to introduce like I mean even in Deathly Hallows Part 1, like they kind of like try to introduce like Harry and Hermione maybe like becoming something eventually, but I mean that was kind of weird to me. It doesn't really work for me personally.
That weird dance scene.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. And yeah. I feel like they really tried to like do like in the early movies they do like little things like I think in Prisoner of Azkaban when they're like Harry's going up to Buckbeak and like Hermione like grabs Ron's hand and then they're like, oh, like I don't know. And it's like they put in tiny moments like here and there, but like I feel like that doesn't do that much to like. And then like you said, when you get to like towards the end, it seems so like intense and like I don't know. I don't think it feels like that well developed, but they also just like spend so much time. Like I feel like Ron and Hermione are just always together. Like when Harry's off doing whatever. So I guess it makes sense.
All right, moving on to what I think number 5, Order of the Phoenix, might be the most underrated Harry Potter movie.
For sure. I agree.
It might be my favorite. I love the whole like Dumbledore's army aspect and like the introduction of Umbridge like we already talked about her, but she's such a good character. I feel like she has like almost like Nurse Ratched vibes. Like,
Oh, very close. Yeah.
it's just that like, and that like in like abuse of power type character is like really effective, I think. So she was great, obviously, and then it just whole Dumbledore's army aspect and like all their training I thought was fun. Seeing Harry kind of step into a role as like a leader, I enjoyed. I think it's a really fun movie, and also dives into the kind of like psychological stuff between Harry and Voldemort, like their connection. I think that's cool too.
Oh yeah, I mean Imelda Staunton, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. She played this role unbelievably well.
Umbridge.
Yeah. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but she was fantastic in this role. I hate her, but
Yeah. What are your feelings on this one, Jeremiah?
It's probably up in my top 3 of the series. It's kind of like not necessarily like an underdog story, but it is really cool to see all the students rise up and back Dumbledore and just like train and like become stronger wizards in their own right. It's really cool to see even the side characters like Neville. You're seeing characters like him starting to become stronger wizards and just to become stronger characters in the franchise when they were kind of in the past films kind of pushed off to the side. Like you're starting to see an introduction of them becoming stronger and more important characters in the whole of the series. So something that's really cool to see.
see, I'm actually going to disagree with you. I think this is an underdog story.
Mm-hmm.
Where you said it's like not a full one. Like I think that's like a true underdog story just because of how many like fools Umbridge puts into place. She like kind of makes Dumbledore step away. Everything else, like it kind of becomes like Harry and Dumbledore's army like are just underdogs like trying to fight back, as much as they can.
I also think that something interesting about this is you're so used to seeing Dumbledore like so in control and like such a strong character, and here you see like, okay, like he can be not like pushed around, but like he's not just the be all end all of the world. Like there are people that in like the Ministry of Magic, and there's other stuff going on above him that's deeper, and like it just makes it feel a little more like real and like tense, I think. I mean, any character, I think when you're writing them, like you don't want to make them too strong or too they need to have some kind of weakness. They can't just be like the end all be all of their world. So I'd like seeing him kind of get like some resistance against himself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think this one too,
with Sirius Black too, like that whole scene, I mean, is pretty emotionally devastating, I think.
It's the saddest death in Harry Potter, in my opinion.
For sure.
I don't agree with that, but it's up there.
Who do you think who has the saddest death?
Bro, Dobby?
I knew you were going to say Dobby.
Man, that scene is so good. Like the knife going through, and then like it hits him, and like you just like it's so quiet on the beach, and like their conversation. Like I think that's such a good scene. But
I think you just convinced me. I think that's the saddest death. Yeah,
it's a great scene. Like I like that scene a lot.
Yeah.
Well, so back to the serious death. You know that scene was actually supposed to have like Harry yelling out like no or like serious, something along those lines. But apparently Daniel Radcliffe had just lost his grandmother either that morning or the night before. And he screamed so loud that they took out the audio and just put the music over it.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like you don't think about like actors having to manage their entire like personal life and then like still go to work like anyone else and like perform. Like that's so difficult. And I feel like especially if what you're experiencing in real life is contrary in tone. I mean, this isn't, but like contrary in tone to like how you're supposed to be acting. Like that has to be so difficult to do. I think that's just like something we just kind of take for granted. Like they're machines, but they're not.
Yeah, you have to like filter out like your outside life and steward your emotions and like for what the character needs or for what the scene needs. And yeah, like you were saying, it's like we take for granted how hard it is for like someone to actually do that because like these are real people and they deal with real things. But like they're people that we just see through a screen, and sometimes we forget that like they're actually like people that are just like us who deal with like things like just like us. So
Yeah.
Now, back to the movie too, because you guys said everything flawlessly. I think this movie too allows you to kind of sympathize with Snape a little more when he's like, trying to teach Harry how to like not let Voldemort into his head. All
I
those
love all
scenes
that.
very intense. Yeah,
Yeah.
some of the best scenes in the movie by far. But when Harry does it back to Snape, and like you kind of see that Harry's dad like bullied Snape, would like torture him when they were in school together. Like,
Yeah. I think that the whole like James Potter, like I think whether it be like your dad or like anyone you look up to in life, like there are moments where you realize like, oh, like they're not perfect.
yeah,
Like they're flawed, just like anybody else, and like they might have done stuff that like is even worse than that. Like you don't know. Like you just kind of come to realize that like that's just a person. They're not perfect. They're not Superman. Like they're just like you or me. So I kind of like that aspect of the story, like him coming to realize like, okay, my dad was, a good man and did good things, but also had these negative characteristics, and like I'm not going to be like that. Like that's not how I'm going to be, and like I think that's important to look at your heroes and like also identify like how you want to be different.
yeah. No, that was spoken flawlessly. What's your guys' thoughts on Luna Lovegood?
She's dope.
she's definitely I feel like she like sticks out like in like all the characters because she's just so different. She's so unique. She has like her own like visual aesthetic. Her like just her own vibe. She just stands out from everyone else. And
Yeah, I was gonna say she's one of the more unique characters in all of Harry Potter, which is something to say given the characters we meet.
Yeah. It's funny we just talked about what we talked about because actually this was not my idea, but I saw on TikTok someone talking about how Luna is the Snape to their group, where she's like there's the core group of like 4 or 5, and then she's kind of the outlier, and she's the person who's like weird or whatever. And like if Harry was a shitty guy, like he might like ostracize her or like treat her weird because she's different. But like kind of like I just said, he is different, and he's like a kind person, and like includes her and like doesn't treat her like his dad treated Snape. And that's kind of like, and there's a lot more to that analogy, but I think it's kind of an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, and it's funny because you actually kind of see Hermione pick on her a little in the very beginning when they get on the cart when she like everyone else doesn't know who she is. Hermione says, "This is Luna Lovegood."
Yeah, like a little judgy ish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of like piggybacking off of all the things you're saying, like especially talking about like James Potter and Snape. I think something we haven't really talked about is like the different houses of Hogwarts, and like how each house has like a certain like people perceive them as being certain things, like people see like Gryffindors as being only good natured people and kind people because they're perceived as this or that, and Slytherin people as being like conniving, even though they might be something else. So I feel like like each house has like a perceived notion of what people in those houses are, even though internally they could be something completely different. There's like certain stigmas and certain stereotypes that are associated with each different house, which I think is really interesting because yeah, I don't know.
no, I like it. Have you guys taken the online quiz to see what house you are?
I have.
What are
I think
you?
I did a very, very long time ago.
Yeah, I did it a long time ago, but I got Gryffindor one time, and then I think the next time I got Hufflepuff. I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
Dan.
I literally couldn't tell you. After this, I will go do it, and I'll see what it says.
I was gonna say it's been a few years since I did it, but I got Slytherin back in the day.
Yeah, but I think it's cool. Like Jeremiah was saying, like I think they all kind of learn throughout the story. Like I think there's a lot of like kind of serious themes behind Harry Potter. I mean, like the villain is literally like basically like a nationalist. I mean, at the end of the day, like he's pretty much that's what he is. And I mean, there's a lot to dive into there, but like sticking with the houses, I think it's cool how towards the end, like that starts not mattering as much, and it's more about them all just kind of coming together and like being a cohesive unit outside of just like the petty, like childish, like oh you're a Slytherin so you're bad, I'm a Gryffindor, like that kind
Yeah.
of stuff fades away, and it's more about like okay we're all people, we're all on the same team, and like just because you might see someone like in a different color robe doesn't mean they're bad or good or anything. It's just like, um,
Yeah, it's supposed to be one team, one fight.
yeah,
And I feel like that stigma stems from the first film, like because in the first one we're introduced to Draco, who's like the first Slytherin we really see, and he's like the way that his character is, like it's like completely opposes Harry. And then Harry he's on the chair for the Sorting Hat, and he's like not Slytherin, not Slytherin. So then you're thinking like Slytherin is like the house that you don't want to be a part of. It's the house that you don't want to be associated with. So like from that point on, like you're thinking that oh Slytherin is this bad house with bad people that you don't want to be associated with, even though that may not like precisely be the case.
yeah,
Well, yeah, and to add on to that too, like Snape being the head of the House of Slytherin, the way he's portrayed, like
Yeah.
really adds to that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I think there's like strong like political parallels there too. It's like, it's almost the same thing as a house, and like you might see yourself as like you might like I don't know. I think it's just like that analogy is there, and you can kind of see it as like you kind of have to get past just seeing someone as whatever, a political party or a house or whatever, and like actually get to know who they are and understand there's like they're not just like what you perceive them to be as based on like the overarching message of like what you're told.
Yeah.
Yeah, and getting back to Order of the Phoenix too, in the very end, kind of when Voldemort appears after he chased down Bellatrix, and that whole scene, it might be one of the best acting scenes in the entire franchise from Daniel Radcliffe when he's kind of on the ground fighting back with Voldemort in his head with like the sand cloud around him.
Yeah. Is that before Dumbledore shows up?
No, it's after.
After. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because like Dumbledore and Voldemort like do their fight, and then he like kind of takes over Harry's body from in his mind.
Yeah. Okay. I remember that, yeah. That the fight between Dumbledore and Voldemort, that might be my favorite like fight in the entire series, honestly. I love that scene, and I love how quiet it is. And then they're just kind of going at it like it's just a very like serious feeling. Also, no pun intended. Like going back to Sirius, I feel like when he died, like I like how that moment is done because it's so just like quick. Like it's not dramatic. It's not like it feels very real. Like this is you see like this is a war, like and war is not there's not some big dramatic scene where you die like you just gone. And he just kind of goes, and like I really like how that was done, and it just feels very like real. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it was kind of like cool is not the right word to use, but it's what I'm going to use. It was kind of cool how he was in front of the tower and like just faded right into it.
Yeah.
Like we've seen
no
death in
goodbye,
this series
no,
before,
like,
and they just fall on the ground like any other death.
Yeah.
So like that one was almost poetic too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a good movie. I really like it a lot. Harry's a little like I feel like Harry's writing in this is sometimes like inconsistent. He's kind of like all over the place and like moody and like, but he is dealing with all that like psychological turmoil. So I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, but I think the one defense behind that is like everyone is kind of like either with him 100% or they're against him because of the way the Daily Prophet is writing, everything, like turning people against him and Dumbledore, and then like he just dealt with like probably the most impactful death that he can remember because obviously he doesn't remember his parents' death.
Yeah.
And all that, like he's coming off that, and they even address it too. Like he's talking to Sirius, and he's like, "I'm so angry, and I don't know why."
Yeah. Speaking of the Daily Prophet, like I liked like the whole like propaganda aspect of like that being shown as a part of the world. I think is very cool, and I like that they added that in. and just kind of that extra like media aspect is interesting. How it can be like a positive or negative,
Yeah. No,
and like how things
absolutely.
are written about. Like when you see like little like newspaper clippings about stuff that's going on or things like that throughout the series.
All right, we ready to move on to Half-Blood Prince?
Yep.
Okay, this one might be the most forgetful of the Harry Potters.
Yeah, I was just gonna say this is the one that I remember like the least about, honestly.
Yeah. This movie was like the main reason I rewatched them all leading up to this episode.
Yeah.
It's this one, and honestly, for me, maybe Deathly Hallows Part 1.
I think this movie is like it's almost like a prologue to the Deathly Hallows. Like it's like kind of like this is not the best analogy, but it's kind of like in Game of Thrones where like there would be episodes where like it feels like
Have you guys ever wanted to create your own podcast? You know, you and your friends get together, you have some good ideas. Well, the easiest way to do it is Anchor through Spotify. You can record there, you can upload to all your platforms, just to upload the links, and you can earn money right away. If you haven't checked it out already, check out Anchor for Spotify.
nothing happens, but it's like a lot of conversations, a lot of like building up different plot points and like getting things to the point where there can be like a battle of the bastards, whatever. Like there's a payoff, but like to get to that point, you have to like do all the setup for it not to feel cheap and like weak. So I think this movie does a lot of that setup. Obviously, the ending is like one of the best scenes in any of the films. But yeah, there's a lot of setup. I kind of like the whole like Harry and Dumbledore off together kind of thing. Like I love Dumbledore's one of my favorite characters. So I like that he gets a lot of time, and it's a lot of like diving into like Voldemort's past, how he got to be who he is, like everything about the Horcruxes. Like I enjoy all that backstory as well.
What are your guys' thoughts on Draco's like character development within this film?
You want to go first, Connor?
Sure. It definitely seemed like the path that they were leading him on for the first, 5 movies. So it wasn't like a total shock. But I do like, towards the end when like they're gonna kill Dumbledore, that it's, you can see his resistance. Like there is still good in Malfoy. I think it's balanced very well.
I think the Malfoy family is so interesting because I think again it feels very real. Like you have this character in Lucius who's like this cold, like so set in his ways, like hateful person, and you see how that impacts kids, and like Draco is just so like indoctrinated into this way of thinking of like I'm better than you, my family's better than yours, like for XYZ reasons, and like again you see that in the real world, and it's like you can kind of see Draco struggling to also like be his own person kind of, but he still always has that in his mind like from his parents of like how things are supposed to be. And then also I think you do see like with Lucius and Draco like how much fear at the end of the day is like a motivating factor